Hi, my name is Cheyenne. I'm 29 years old, and I'm super excited to share about my testimony tonight. When I was growing up, I thought of marriage as sort of this dysfunctional, chaotic kind of thing. I never thought of it as this honorable, lifelong commitment that was just so beautiful and so amazing. My mom and dad actually never really formally got married. Then my grandparents were actually married, but they didn't really have like a huge philosophy on marriage. My dad was not really around in my life until I was about 10 years old. He was in prison, and I would talk to him on the phone sometimes if we could schedule a phone call, or sometimes we would write letters. My mom was a teenage mom. She had me when she was 17. And so she had a lot of things in her life that she needed to figure out. And so between her and my dad, my grandparents decided that they would take me in until they had some time to figure some things out. And in that time, my grandfather really stepped in as a father figure for me, and we did a lot of amazing things together. So he was like a dad to me, basically, until my mom and dad started coming back into the picture when I was about 12 or 13. And at that point, things seemed to be normal, seemed to be better, but it was actually just moments before one of the most traumatic things in my childhood happened, which was my grandfather committing suicide. My grandfather's suicide really hit my family hard. It definitely created a lot of just distress and confusion and sadness. I never thought of it as being traumatic necessarily at the time, or really in my young adult life. I never thought about it much at all. But once I got older, I started to see that that was an area that I had never really thought about or processed. One day I was sitting in a living room and I heard the gospel of Jesus Christ come on television. It was like all of a sudden the lights came on, and I realized that the message of Jesus Christ was that I could have a new life in him, that my sins could be washed away, that I could be made whole and made a new person. So I decided to visit a church, and I got plugged into a church, and I gave my life to Christ, and I started following him, and I started becoming very active in the church, and it very much so went from being a way for me to worship God and honor God in gratitude for what he had done for me, to me performing to try to get the attention and approval of a guy. Really, on a subconscious level, I was playing out the traumatic cycle that I had been in my life as a kid. Not growing up with a dad, and having a dad who was distant, and feeling like I wasn't good enough to have him around as a kid, or having a grandfather that was loving and that was present, but at one moment in his life just decided to abandon me and my family. I said, I'm just going to humble myself. I'm going to humble myself, and I'm going to see if God will heal me of the things that have led me to this point. And so that's when I found out about Value Unconditional. And it was the first time in my life that I could actually have space to share about what I felt about what had happened in my life as a kid. It was through that love and that kindness and that presence that I experienced this freedom inside. About a year after I did these sessions with Value Unconditional and had walked through this healing process, I met my husband. And even now, having been married for 3 years, I can honestly say that the blessing of what I received from Value Unconditional has stretched far beyond that time of healing that led to me meeting my husband. And if it wasn't for VU, then I wouldn't have been able to face those things and seek God for healing and replace the lies that I've been believing with the truth, so that I could inherit what God had for me. And that's my hope for anybody watching this and anybody hearing my testimony. The enemy wants to attack you in the place that is most instrumental and most essential for your God-given purpose and calling. The thing that God made for you to impact others with, that's the area that the enemy wants to steal from you so that you can never become all that God made you to be. So the secret to fighting that, it's to face it head on and to seek God and seek healing in those areas so that you can become all that God made you to be.